vegan side effects must figure out what to do with extra vigor.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Unregulated mining has the potential to release harmful substances into the soil, air and water. Environmental issues can include soil erosion and contamination, loss of biodiversity, and surface water pollution due to the use of chemicals in the mining process. Industrial mining. Damaging effects on the planet and our health, part 1 of 3. Continue watching to find out more.
Buongiorno means hello in the Corsican language. I am Julie. The people of Corsica wish every being on this planet to become more connected with the divine power. Welcome to part 1 of our 3-part series, Industrial Mining, Damaging Effects on the Planet and Our Health, on Planet Earth, our loving home. Mining activities involve the extraction of valuable minerals and other geological materials from the earth, and the mining industry is regarded as one of the major economic contributors to various countries. But unfortunately, mining is an inherently invasive process that can cause damage to landscapes much larger than the mining sites themselves. Unregulated mining has the potential to release harmful substances into the soil, air and water. Environmental issues can include soil erosion and contamination, loss of biodiversity and surface water pollution due to the use of chemicals in the mining process. The effects of this damage can continue for years after a mine has shut down, including the addition of greenhouse gases, loss of flora and fauna, and overall destruction of land and ecological habitats. One of the most destructive mining methods is strip mining, which eliminates existing vegetation, destroys the genetic soil profile, displaces or destroys wildlife and habitat, alters current land use, and to some extent permanently changes the general topography of the area mined. In July 2018, a group of scientists used an online mapping tool to show detailed images of tracts of land stripped by mountaintop coal mining in central Appalachia. The tool uses satellite imagery to identify and map the extent of mining activity on an annual basis across the states of Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia, USA. The mapping tool was developed by researchers at Duke University in North Carolina, USA, along with the non-profit organizations Appalachian Voices and Sky Truth. The research team estimated that every year between 1985 and 2015, an average of 21,000 acres, or an area about half the size of Washington, D.C., was stripped down to bare earth and rubble in central Appalachia. The team processed U.S. government satellite images of visible and invisible light reflected from the Earth's surface taken over 31 consecutive years in a 74-county area using Google's Earth Engine cloud computing platform. Data from the scientific evidence suggested that entire forests were destroyed, showing barren landscapes filled with harmful dust and contaminated bodies of water. Regarding the research, senior co-author and distinguished Professor Emily Bernard said, "Any scientist interested in studying the impacts of mountaintop mining can now see exactly where mines are in the landscape and how long those impacts have been active." The data can be used to more precisely understand how mountaintop mining affects water quality, how far the effects extend downstream, and how long they persist. Coal mining also has a huge impact on local water resources, both on the surface and underground. Surface water can be contaminated through the discharge of mine drainage, while groundwater gets contaminated by filtration into aquifers. Coal mine drainage contains highly acidic water contaminated with the ions of toxic heavy metals such as arsenic, lead, cadmium, cobalt, copper, and zinc. In bodies of water, these chemicals can be hazardous for both humans and aquatic wildlife. Scientists have long agreed that coal mining negatively affects water quality. A study by a team of researchers from the University of Tennessee found that water contamination caused by coal mining significantly reduces the abundance and variety of fish, invertebrates, salamanders, and other aquatic life in streams. Assistant Professor Xingli Jiang of the University of Tennessee's Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology and the study's lead author says, "Our article will be interesting to policymakers as well as the broad public as trade-offs between fossil fuel development and environmental conservation are currently being actively debated in the political arena." The authors also noted that coal mining's impact goes beyond aquatic species and can affect the health of human communities by causing problems such as increased mortality from lung cancer, chronic health problems, and kidney disease. The study's findings were published in a 2018 issue of the journal Nature Sustainability. All forms of mining pose a potential threat to the environment. During excavation work or the process of breaking up materials during mining, dust particles which are associated with health problems are released into the surrounding environment. Such emissions accumulated in areas surrounding coal mines are reported to cause lung disease among miners and people living in the vicinity. These particles, known as coal dust, make up a fine powder that forms through the mining process when coal is ground and crushed. The chemical composition and size distribution of the coal dusts are highly varied. Adverse health effects are mostly associated with exposure to elevated levels of fine particles known as PM10, which are fine dust constituents less than 10 microns in diameter. Inhalable particles are those that enter the nose or mouth, causing respiratory diseases and cancer in lung tissues. In March 2020, a study was done in Australia to confirm the link between coal mining and poor air quality in nearby towns. Associate Professor Gunther Paul of James Cook University in Australia reported that the scientists who performed the study looked at community-based air monitoring stations in Queensland and New South Wales, along with 10 years of data from the National Pollutant Inventory. The information was used to analyze microscopic levels of dust in nearby areas caused by coal mining. The results revealed that as coal mining activities increased, levels of harmful dust particles, metals, and nitrogen oxides also increased. According to Associate Professor Paul, this increased production of coal produces an increase in pollution, and that can be measured in communities, so there is a correlation. we found there is significantly higher PM10 in the mining region compared to southeast Queensland or similar areas in New South Wales. The results of the study have prompted renewed calls for independent on-site dust monitoring and a reduction in the occupational exposure limit for mine workers. We'll be back after a short interval while we admire the beautiful landscapes of Mother Earth and pray that all the lovely fauna and flora will be protected through heaven's grace. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Vegan side effects? Don't know what indigestion is? Welcome back to our program, Industrial Mining, Damaging Effects on the Planet and Our Health. Coal mines are among the greatest sources of anthropogenic methane emissions, or coal mine methane or CMM. The production of coal releases methane that is trapped in coal seams and surrounding strata, and once a mine is closed, it continues to release methane known as abandoned mine methane or AMM for an extended period of time thereafter. An article published by Reuters in 2020 states, methane leaks from planned coal mines around the world could have a bigger climate impact than carbon emissions from US coal plants. This implies that coal mining must not be overlooked as one of the sources of planet warming emissions. The report also states that the countries with the highest number of potential methane emissions from planned coal mines are China, Australia, Russia, India, South Africa, the United States, and Canada, respectively. Dr. Ryan Driscoll-Tate, a research analyst for the non-governmental organization Global Energy Monitor, and the report's author says, coal mine methane has dodged scrutiny for years, even though there's clear evidence it poses a significant climate impact. If new coal mines proceed as planned without mitigation measures in place, then a major source of greenhouse gas will go unrestrained. According to a study conducted in 2021 at the U.S. Department of Energy's Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, or PNNL, it was estimated that methane emissions from coal mines are approximately 50% higher than previously determined. The findings are based on the knowledge that methane continues to be emitted from thousands of abandoned mines and that the higher methane content in coal seams is much deeper. 250 coal samples were analyzed from around the world, including Asia, Australia, Europe, North America and South America, with the study's research team discovering that coal from depths greater than 400 meters tends to contain more than twice as much methane as coal mined at depths less than 200 meters. Chief author of the study, Associate Professor Nazar Kolod, says, as more coal mines close, the share of coal mines that have been abandoned but are still emitting methane will increase. In our last episode, we talked about how coal mining can be highly damaging to the environment, as well as how it impacts our health. Did you know that gold mining is one of the world's most ecologically destructive industries? Gold mining has ravaged landscapes, contaminated water supplies, and contributed to the destruction of vital ecosystems. Often, gold mining processes leave in their wake extensive soil erosion and contamination of streams or other bodies of water with mercury, a toxic liquid metal. The process consists of pumping a mixture of water and sediment from a riverbed into a trough while suspending the sediment in a slurry. Mercury is then added to the gold particles to form an amalgam. Mercury is often used in artisanal, low-tech and small-scale gold mining to extract gold from rock and sediment. The process of separating gold from ore with mercury is causing a global health and environmental crisis. The toxic element is also likely to cause cascading effects throughout Earth's ecosystem. In 2018, the World Health Organization, or WHO, and the United Nations met to push forward action to halt the damaging effects of artisanal and small-scale gold mining on human health and the environment. Regarding this issue, WHO senior scientist Dr. Magaran Bagayoko says, small-scale gold mining is a crucial source of income for millions of Africans. But it is often dangerous, damaging, and in the worst cases deadly for artisanal miners. Exposure to elemental mercury can cause lifelong disability, kidney failure, and speech, sight, and cognitive impairment. Pregnant women and children are at particular risk. To combat mercury poisoning, the world's first legally binding treaty on mercury, the Minamata Convention, was signed in 2013 by representatives from 92 countries. The goal was to phase out use of this highly toxic substance by 2020. Apart from the use of mercury, gold-rich countries in Africa routinely discharge toxic chemicals containing cyanide and arsenic during gold mining activities. When these harmful compounds are released into bodies of water, workers and local residents are exposed to a range of health risks, including lower respiratory tract infections, cardiovascular diseases, skin infections, and cancer. A number of investigations have been conducted on the health impact of gold extraction. In Ghana, for example, several studies have documented heaps of waste materials at mining sites that release toxic chemicals into the environment. In 2020, a group of researchers from Duke University in the USA carried out research highlighting concerns about how gold miners have dramatically altered the landscape of Peru's Amazon. An increase in mercury poisoning risk for humans and wildlife was also revealed. According to the research team, leftover mercury from mining sites caused highly toxic methyl mercury levels to be present in some watersheds. Simon Top, a doctoral student in geological sciences at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, who co-led the study, says in heavily mined watersheds, there's been a 670% increase in the extent of ponds across the landscapes since 1985. These ponds are almost entirely artificial lakes created as thousands of former mining pits fill in with rainwater and groundwater over time.
Vast areas of the Amazon rainforest have been destroyed by illegal gold miners, polluting the area with liquid mercury.
Postdoctoral student at the University of California, Berkeley, Dr. Jacqueline Gerson adds, methyl mercury poses especially high risks for humans and large animals because it bioaccumulates in body tissue. That's particularly concerning given the high biodiversity and the large number of indigenous populations that live in the Peruvian Amazon. in a 2021 study. The Landsat image archive available through Google Earth Engine was used to quantify the total footprint of vegetation loss due to artisanal gold mines in Ghana from 2005 to 2019. Within the study area of southwestern Ghana, the results showed that approximately 47,000 hectares of vegetation were converted to mining at an average rate of 2,600 hectares per year. Apart from deforestation, increased gold mining activity in recent years has the potential to affect human health and the community's access to clean drinking water resources. We'll take a moment now to pray for the protection of planet Earth's natural environment. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Vegan side effect: naturally love and respect all around. Welcome back, loving viewers, to Industrial Mining: Damaging Effects on the Planet and Our Health. At present, greenhouse gas emissions across the entire gold industry, from exploration and extraction to downstream uses such as jewelry making, contribute 36,793 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of gold extracted and used. The World Gold Council, or WGC, and its members recognize that climate change poses a substantial risk to the global economy and socio-economic development. The WGC aims to meet 2030 decarbonization goals laid out by the Paris Agreement. WGC Chief Financial Officer Terry Heyman says we recognize that climate change imposes very substantial risks to the global economy. Gold has an important role to play in supporting the transition to a lower carbon economy, both through decarbonization efforts and as a compelling investment as investors look for resilient assets in their portfolios, which are less likely to be negatively impacted by the physical and transition risks associated with climate change. Dr. Ben Caldecott, Director of the Oxford Sustainable Finance Programme and Associate Professor at Oxford University, says, investors all over the world, from large institutional investors to small millennial retail savers, have become increasingly aware of their portfolio's environmental footprints. The global challenge of transitioning to a negative carbon footprint poses a massive challenge, but also opportunity, and will reshape the value of assets and companies across sectors of the global economy. In recent years, gold mining has increased rapidly across the wider Amazon region, especially along the Guiana Shield, where as much as 90% of total deforestation has occurred. The Guiana Shield includes Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, Venezuela, and small parts of Colombia and northern Brazil. In Guyana, for example, gold mining led to about 57,000 hectares of forest lost between 2010 and 2017. Scientific research published in the Journal of Applied Ecology in 2020 found that gold mining significantly limits the regrowth of Amazonian forests. The results showed that forest recovery is severely limited by mining-induced depletion of soil nutrients, along with mercury concentrations and other toxic elements. The Amazon Conservation Association's monitoring of the Andean Amazon Project, or MAAP, was established to track and report on any illegal mining activities in the Amazon rainforest areas of Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Brazil, and Colombia using satellite imagery. Regarding the project, Senior Research Specialist and Director of MAAP, Dr. Matt Feiner, says, "We are able to see the most remote stretches of the Amazon. You tell it exactly where to go and it snaps a picture for you and you get it within 24 to 48 hours. It's really remarkable." The group's findings can then be shared with government officials to locate mining activities as they are happening. We are delighted to share the news that earlier this year, Ghana's Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, announced the decision to suspend all prospecting licenses granted for mining, thus urging the government to cancel all prospecting mining licenses. The decision was made to end the unregulated and irresponsible mining that was threatening the existence of Ghana's forest reserves, rivers, and bodies of water. It was also acknowledged that the negative impacts of climate change were hitting the environment hard and the country will feel the real impact of disaster if steps are not taken to protect and save the environment. The Honorable Samuel Abujinapo says, "Ghana is committed to the global efforts to preserve and protect the natural forest cover, and we shall spare no effort and resources in achieving this goal." Kudos to the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo for his wise decision. Welcome to the final part of our series, Industrial Mining, Damaging Effects on the Planet and Our Health. Mining is essential to the production of goods, services, and infrastructure around the globe, with copper and iron ore being among the most valuable metals for industrial use. Iron is used to manufacture steel and plays an important role in civil engineering projects. Copper is one of the world's most important metals due to its ability to conduct both heat and electricity, and is used in various types of electrical equipment such as wiring and motors. However, both copper and iron mining has the potential to discharge highly toxic waste and dust into the environment. Copper mining is largely done in open pits and generates large quantities of waste known as tailings. The production of copper requires many tons of ore to be excavated, crushed, concentrated by froth flotation, and then extracted through methods that may involve the use of hazardous chemicals. Copper mine tailings, which consist of finely ground residue or dust generated from mining operations, are typically the largest single source of discharge from the mines. This is one example of the waste generated by copper mining, which totals 99 tons per 1 ton of copper extracted. Exposure to such pollution from mines is extremely damaging to the health of communities living near mine dumps. In 2019, a team of scientists did a heavy metal analysis of soil and plant samples around the Murgol copper mine in eastern Turkey. The team studied the presence of trace elements such as copper, zinc, and cadmium in soils and plants. The results showed high concentrations of toxicity for most of the trace metal ions. The scientists stressed that assessing and monitoring levels of heavy metals in the environment is imperative. In 2020, research showed that the release of toxic materials in Arizona had soared due to waste from both copper mines and the smelting of copper. The waste included compounds of copper, lead, and arsenic. Excessive exposure to such mine tailings can provoke or aggravate symptoms of asthma, bronchitis, and other respiratory conditions. Besides being common in copper mines, dust generation and dispersion have also been a major concern in iron mining operations, with detrimental effects on air quality, water quality, and biological species. In 2016, a study was done on the potential ecological and human health risks of heavy metals in surface soils associated with iron ore mining. The areas studied included 7 locations around active and abandoned iron ore mining sites in Pahang, Malaysia. The results showed the presence of trace metals such as cadmium, arsenic, lead, and copper, which have the potential to cause ecological risks. Overall, the findings revealed that some metals and metalloids were still present at comparable concentrations even long after mining activities had stopped. More recently, in October 2020, the residents of Newman, a town in the Pilbara region of Western Australia, reported that large clouds of red dust coming from mining operations can regularly be seen in the air. This is due to the release of dust from an iron ore facility that exceeds the legal limit set for mining operations. According to Australia's Director of Occupational and Environmental Health and Safety, Sue Reid, long-term exposure to high levels of dust pollution can put an extra load on the body, particularly the respiratory system. Director Reid says it is found that some people who live in high pollution areas are more likely to have cardiac type symptoms and issues with their lungs. Copper and iron aren't the only mining industries that are hazardous to humans and the environment. Gold mining is also extremely harmful, as seen in countries like Ghana in Africa, where 60% of Ghana's freshwater bodies are now polluted, mostly all due to illegal gold mining activities. Ghana is the leading producer of gold in Africa, and about 35% of it is extracted by small-scale miners, most of them operating illegally. Miners use water extracted from the rivers to mine for gold, but because mercury is added in the process, the water is poisoned before it makes its way back into the rivers. It is predicted that Ghana will need to start importing its fresh water by 2030 if the illegal mining isn't stopped. Now let's pause for a moment to pray for the safety and well-being of those in the mining industry and for the overall welfare of communities living near mining sites. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Vegan, because there's no excuse to be inhumane. Thanks for staying with us. Let's now have a look at some interesting Earth elements. The rare earth elements, or REE, are 17 silvery white soft heavy metals that play a major role in making essential components for smartphones, computers, and many other electronic devices. However, the mining of REE can cause problems for the environment and for human health due to the large amounts of toxic and radioactive materials that result from the co-extraction of the radioactive metals thorium and uranium. On this issue, Dr. Melanie Müller, a raw materials expert at SWP, says mining raw materials is always problematic both with regard to human rights and ecology. Their production process is pretty toxic. Magnets made of certain rare earth elements are the strongest magnets available today. The demand for end applications of REE are expected to increase along with the rising use of hybrid cars, smartphones, and other high-tech products. According to Dr. Nicholas Leadbeater, whose research focuses on developing green technologies, as the world's hunger for these elements increases, the waste is going to increase. The more mines there are, the more trouble there's going to be. In July 2019, an article published by the Yale School of the Environment at Yale University, USA, described how the removal of REE from the Earth's crust using a mix of water and chemicals caused extensive water and soil pollution at a former mining site in Longnam County, Jiangxi Province, China. At one site, large uncovered wastewater ponds exposed to trace elements were spotted. Satellite images show dozens of similar pools dotting the mountains. Long-term exposure to traces of pollutants such as cadmium and lead released during the mining process will pose health risks. Dr. Gunther Hilpert, head of the Asia Research Division of SWP, further explains that extracting just 1 ton of rare earth elements produces 2,000 tons of toxic waste, and the process has devastated large regions of China. Dr. Shang Huang, a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Waterloo in Canada, says the end impact could be on the central nervous system, cancers like bone cancer, skin cancer, and cardiovascular and respiratory issues. Ma Jun, a leading Chinese environmentalist and director of China's Institute for Public and Environmental Affairs, said in a phone interview, "To us as an environmental group, we hope that the environmental damage can stop and that these external pollution costs could be internalized in the cost of products." He also expressed fear that if proper cleanup actions are not taken in other parts of the world where mining of REE occurs, those areas could suffer a similar fate. For a positive move in the right direction came when the Group of Seven, or G7, consisting of the USA, Canada, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan, recently signed an agreement to stop funding new coal mining and to move away from existing coal plants in an effort to tackle climate change. The G7 also pledged to spend $100 billion a year until 2025 to help poorer countries mitigate the effects of climate change. Our beloved Supreme Master Ching Hai reminds us not to harm the environment and not to use up our precious Earth's natural resources.
Every country should help each other to develop more sustainable energy for our shared planet, as well as to protect the health of the people and the animals. We just cannot burn away or use up all our precious natural resources and in the process harm our environment. We must adopt sustainable, green, frugal lifestyles which will support all life on the planet.
Thank you, Supreme Master Ching Hai, for reminding us to care for our precious planet Earth. May we all soon adopt the vegan diet and create more sustainable technologies for the future. Caring viewers, thank you for being with us today for industrial mining damaging effects on the planet and our health. Coming up next is Transformative Education for a Sustainable Future, Vegan Schools of the World, Part 2 of 2, right after Noteworthy News. Through the grace of God, may you and your loved ones forever be blessed and spiritually uplifted. Vegan, cause we must save our home, the planet.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/PE.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/PE.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/PE.
Acara kami menyediakan banyak bahasa. Silakan lihat suprememastertv.com/schedule dan suprememastertv.com/PE.